I'll do a welcome. I'll do a welcome and then Tara will welcome everyone and she'll do the land acknowledgement. So just bear with me for 1 second. All right, welcome everyone to this month's chapter meeting and thank you for joining us tonight. Tonight's meeting is being held earlier due to the upcoming elections and to ensure the information presented is timely. The primary focus of tonight's meeting, as previously stated, will be get out the vote initiatives, safeguarding democracy, how to get involved, and environmental initiatives on the upcoming ballot. First, I'll turn it over to our chapter co-chair, Tara Barauskas, to provide the land acknowledgement for this meeting. So take it away, Tara.
Thanks, Andy, and welcome everyone. It's great to see you all. Tonight's land acknowledgement, we recognize the unique and enduring relationship that exists between Indigenous people and their traditional territories. We acknowledge that we are collectively on the historic homeland of the Kizh, Tongva, and Chumash tribes. Let this acknowledgement serve as a reminder of our ongoing efforts to recognize, honor, reconcile, and partner with the peoples whose lands and waters we benefit from today.
Thank you, Tara. And without further ado, don't want to lose my place. Before I introduce our speakers, I want to provide a little bit of context about the environment as a political issue. According to the Environmental Voter Project, 65% of Americans express concern about climate change, yet it has not emerged as a top issue this election cycle or past ones. Given the statistic, it behooves Climate Reality Los Angeles and similar organizations to encourage as many individuals as possible to vote, to participate in the system, and to uphold it. Politicians, elected officials, and candidates, while responsible to all constituents, prioritize those that vote and the issues they are concerned with. A larger electorate strengthens democracy and it makes it more responsive to its concerns, which include climate change and its effects like drought, wildfires, extreme weather phenomena, and climate injustice, all things we're very familiar with as Californians and people within the US. But it's now my pleasure to introduce William Conover, regional organizer with the Climate Reality Project, to discuss the organization's nationwide campaign to increase voter turnout for tomorrow. If you're available, we hope chapter members will sign up and participate. William is going to explain how to do just that and hopefully make it easier. And this recording will be published, so hopefully it's a resource for our chapter members. So take it away, William, and thank you again for joining us.
Hey everyone, thanks for having me. It's nice to be here. Get to meet a new chapter. I'll be going over the kind of onboarding presentation that we do. Just a disclaimer, I'm not an expert, so I'll do my best to go through the presentation and answer any questions you guys have. If at the end you have questions, like I said, I'll do my best to answer them, but if I can't, you can always reach out to chapters@climatereality.com and we should be able to get back to you in a timely manner. I'm going to share my screen now. This should be the right one. Yes, it is. Before I get going, let me just copy and paste all the links that we're going to have in this presentation today so we can avoid having to do that during. So those you'll see those in the presentation. Now I can't get my chat out of the way. Okay. Cool. So yeah, as Andy mentioned, our project is called Turnout for Tomorrow. It's our GOTV effort. As you guys are well aware, we're a C3, so it's nonpartisan. So that is a key component of this, and we get a lot of questions around that. Why texting? I think Andy mentioned a lot of good reasons in terms of generally the population is concerned about it, and the higher the turnout, the better. So that is a very key component. Another reason is in 2020, a third of the country did not vote, which is a pretty high number. And since this is a non-presidential election cycle, that number is going to be far, far higher than that. And then also voters who scored least likely. So, you know, someone who maybe only votes presidential cycles, only has voted a few times, were 3 times more likely to vote when texted compared to their peers. This election cycle is also very pivotal, as you all are very aware. And most importantly, or not most importantly, but refreshingly, texting is very easy. I've knocked a lot of doors in my life. I've made a lot of phone calls. And I can tell you from experience that texting is very simple. You don't have to worry about any real hostility. People will send mean texts, but this is just a text. You're not at their door or anything like that. So let's go ahead and go through the kind of setup flow to get you guys familiar with what it would look like. So how do you join? First, you fill out the interest form. And as I said, all the links are in chat. So you fill out the interest form. It's pretty self-explanatory. It's, kind of similar to interest form or forms you've seen on Climate Reality before, name, email, things like that. Once you do that, you will be directed towards our Slack. The Slack is really important for all of this. Once you're on there, things will be a lot easier. There will be staff generally available for responses if you have questions. And when you do join the Slack, you'll be put into two channels. First, the announcements channel. Self-explanatory. It's where main announcements go, kind of overarching things that are not too specific. And then texting onboarding. When you first join the Slack and you haven't taken the quiz yet, this will be the more important channel for you. If you have any questions about, where do I find the quiz? I need help on the quiz. Where are these resources? This is the channel that you can put that in. Also linked in the chat is the texting team guide, which will be very helpful as you're taking the quiz. So be sure to check that out. And we'll go over that in a second. The texting team guide has a bunch of information. It'll tell you about expectations. It'll help you with the quiz. How do I do this? How do I respond to that? A lot of good information is in there. So we go over the quiz. So here's a little sneak preview if you want to study now. But it's pretty simple. How do I get a Climate Reality texting account? You follow the directions in the texting guide linked above to create your Climate Reality texting account. As I mentioned, it's linked below. And then you create your Spoke or Scale to Win account. That's the actual platform where you'll be texting on. Once again, that's linked in the chat. Then once you do that, you will check the pin post, or how do I get text to send? Check the pin post in the Slack channel, and it will give you the campaign link. So you'll click on the campaign link and it will take you where you can start sending texts. And again, as I mentioned, there's a lot of good resources in the texting channel. And just, I'm not sure if I mentioned this, but once you pass the quiz, you'll be added to the texting channel. So you're initially only in the texting onboarding, then you pass the quiz, and then you'll be in the texting channel. You will click on the link that we put in there. It will take you to the texting page, and then you will assign yourself text. Sending initial text, there'll be a little button. I know this is probably a little confusing looking at it in PowerPoint and not having it in front of you, but I promise if you go through the setup flow, it should be not too confusing. And like I said, the Slack is there, so you can ask questions if you need help. And then you just start hitting send like crazy, send those texts out. And then once you've sent all your texts, what do? You check your replies and use appropriate automated canned responses to reply to them. This is kind of where we get the most questions like, oh, this person responded in this way. How do I reply? And things like that. So for custom ones that we don't go over here or you don't see in the team guide, you can go to the Slack channel, the texting channel, and ask those questions and we will help you out. The replies flow. So as I mentioned, so you reach this person, they just say no. You just go down to the choose a reply section and they all have these handy little titles that you can choose from. And you just click on the canned response and then you hit reply. And it is relatively simple. Like I mentioned, texting is not too complicated once you're familiar with the platform. Wrong number. What do? Click and send the wrong number canned response. It will be just like the previous slide. You just click wrong number, hit send. Okay, what if they say stop, unsubscribe, or cancel? You click the opt-out button. The platform will generally catch most of these. So it's usually don't have to do too many of these, but something that we're stressing to volunteers is that you only opt them out if they specifically say stop, unsubscribe, or cancel. You know, if they say, I don't like you or something, you don't opt them out. That's a different response. And yeah, there's the opt out button. It's just right down there. What if the person is cursing me out or being inappropriate? This unfortunately happens because people are not very nice all the time, but that's okay. You mark the appropriate manual tag and click close and save button. And the proper tag is hostile. You'll get usually a few of these. You just click hostile, move on, don't dwell on it, and don't waste your time with those people because you know, there's other people out there who will be receptive to your message, and it's better to spend your time on those people instead of these hostile people. What do I do if I send text but can't finish or I can't send replies? Select the release my text button on the texting homepage. This will put it back into the kind of general pool of texting. It will come back to our end of, you know, texts that need replies, and then we can assign it to another texter or reply to ourselves. This way everyone gets a response in a timely manner. And then here's how to release text. It will be in the platform. Again, I know these screenshots probably aren't the most helpful when you haven't been on the platform itself, but it will just be a little release my text button. And then after that, that's pretty much the entire quiz. And then once you've done that, like I said, you'll be added to the texting channel, and then you can start texting. You'll be texting during set times. There are shifts that you can sign up for, which I believe I should have put that link in the chat. I believe I did. And yep, this is the texting channel, just going back over. This is where you'll be added once you finish the quiz. And then, as I mentioned, we will be here to help. There's a variety of different roles. There's usually at least 3 to 4 staff on during shifts to help you answer any questions you might have. And the texting calendar, which I put in the chat. And then sign up for shifts. Yeah, it's the Mobilize link. Don't be a fossil fool. That is important. And that's pretty much it. I know that was pretty brief, and I kind of ran through that. So before I go any further, is there any questions, thoughts, comments, concerns, anything like that? Go ahead.
Oops, press the wrong button. I was just curious, what initiatives are you guys texting for?
This is purely just reminding people to get out the vote. So
Oh, I see. And is it targeted to like people that are registered Democrats, or like is there some kind of criteria?
We can't target because it's a nonprofit. So I'm not exactly sure where we're sourcing the lists from or exactly how, but these are just voters in swing states. So states like Nevada, North Carolina, Ohio, Pennsylvania, there's other states as well. And we do just pure get out the vote individual. And then at the end of it, we ask people to text 3 of their friends. And that has actually been shown to be really effective as well. It's always helpful for us to text, but it's even more effective if they get it from a friend. And there's some campaigns where we specifically text people. It's called vote tripling, and it'll be asking them specifically to triple their vote by texting 3 friends.
Okay, got it.
Cheryl, I see your question there. I prefer the laptop. It's easier. And I just like having a bigger screen, and it's easier to navigate. But people use the phone frequently. And I've used the phone in the past. And, you know, if you're on the go, or you're, you know, at a coffee shop or wherever you may be, the phone works too, but I prefer a laptop personally. Yeah,
Thank you, William. How many climate leaders are participating right now?
I think we had, I want to say 50 unique signups. But that, don't quote me on that because I'm not sure and I do not have that information. But it's a good amount, smattered throughout the country. I think we've sent over 100,000 text messages so far on the shifts we have. And, you know, to Dave's point, you can really crank those things out. It's a lot easier than other forms.
And how long are the shifts? Are they like an hour, or like, you know, how do you squeeze it into your life is what I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah, they're in 3-hour blocks, but if you sign up for 3 hours and you can only come for an hour, that's totally fine. You know, we're not going to be like, hey, can't believe she didn't stay for the 3 hours. You know, you guys are volunteers, you have lives. So the shift length is 3 hours. But if you can only come for 1 or 2, that's fine.
Okay, that's good to know, because yeah, 3 hours is kind of a lot.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. Any other questions for me?
Doesn't look like it. Thank you, William.
Yeah, I'm gonna hop off here. But like I mentioned, I will put it in the chat here. If you have any questions, you can just reach out to chapters at, and we'll get back to you. And hopefully we'll see you texting. Thanks again for having me, and I'll see you guys around.
Thank you for joining us, William.
Bye.
Thank you.
All right.
Good to see you.
What was that, Andrew?
I was trying to say goodbye to William.
All right, I'll convey the message. All right, without further ado, so we already thanked William. So now that you've heard about the Climate Reality Project's special efforts, I'm going to turn it over to Jeannie Lewis, an active member of the Legislative and Citizens Activist Committee, as well as a voting rights advocate, to discuss her efforts and additional get out the vote efforts that members can participate in. So take it away, Jeannie. I don't want to deprive anyone any longer. Sorry, Jeannie, you're muted.
Can I go ahead and share my screen?
Yes, you can.
Okay. Let's see. Okay. Okay. Let me just slideshow. Hold on a second. Okay, so good evening, everyone. I'm Jeannie Lewis. I'm a fairly new climate reality leader. I'm really happy to be I'm super happy to be part of the Los Angeles chapter of the Climate Reality Project. I've been active I've been involved with both the Legislative Committee. I'm also on the Climate Literacy Committee. I'm actually also a member of the Sierra Club and have been involved with some efforts with the Sierra Club and a member of the South Bay chapter of the Citizens Climate Lobby. So I got involved with this because I really wanted to meld. I'm really interested in elections, and I wanted to meld the climate advocacy with the election. So I was looking around to how to, connect these dots together. And so part of what I'm presenting tonight is based on that effort. I did have an event to vote for the planet, and tonight I'm advocating to get out the vote for the planet so that we can elect climate champions, we can support climate policy solutions, and we can hold elected officials accountable. And we also want to educate the public on, these important issues. So what I would like to cover is just why the midterms are so important, which maybe is obvious to everyone, the progress we've made because we've had some climate champions in office, and how we can look forward, and ways to get involved, in some resources that I'd like to share. And here's a picture from Earth Day. I had a group of people, we had some Earth Day activities to create artwork that expressed our advocacy for the planet. So why are the midterms so important? We want to elect climate champions. We want to pass policy solutions. We want to hold politicians accountable. Excuse me, my dog. Hold on a second. We want to educate the public on the most important pressing environmental issues. And I mean, it's just notable that a lot of our politicians, I mean, some of them, you know, I've been sending a lot of messages to my local elected officials. But I think that somehow, as you were saying earlier, Andy, it's not high on the agenda for some reason. It's not talked about a lot. So I really wanted to get involved and put these two pieces together. So we've made quite a bit of progress by having climate champions. We had passed the Inflation Reduction Act. It was a tough lift. The Build Back Better Act, you know, was kind of, it seemed like we were going through a phase where we weren't going to pass it, and then finally it came through. But by having this majority of people that were climate advocates, we did pass that important piece of legislation. And it has a lot of important provisions about creating a lot of incentives for energy, zero carbon emissions, you know, for things like electric cars and clean energy in buildings and even farms and so forth. It's the biggest, from what I understand, the biggest contribution financially to climate that we've ever had. And then we also passed a lot of important legislation in California with having climate advocates. And I actually have a handout which I can give later, which summarizes some of the bills that were passed in California. But we had a plastic reduction, and this was with the climate legislative committee of the Climate Reality Project, both the California, the Los Angeles chapter and the San Fernando Valley chapter, and some other groups working together with the advocacy. And I will pass out something later if you're interested, which summarizes a list of those pieces of legislation. So looking forward, these are kind of the pillars, the 5 pillars for our climate moment. And Andrew Ellis has educated me that this is our campaign toolkit, our climate moment. We want to have a just transition to clean energy, zero carbon transportation, climate justice, healthy communities, green communities, and a fair representative democracy. So these are the things we're looking forward to. I know that the Farm Bill is coming up, and that's a very important, that's seen as another important piece of climate legislation that we're looking at. The ways that you can get involved, there are many ways you can get involved, and this is what I was searching around for. But as we heard about the Climate Reality Project texting, I actually wasn't familiar with that, so I was happy to hear about that. But we have the legislative committee, which we really like to get more people involved with. So I do want to give that plug. The Citizens Climate Lobby, I'm actually presenting nonpartisan efforts, even though I've researched other partisan efforts, and you're welcome to get in touch with me if you would like to, because I know just about everyone in the book. But I do want to point out some of the nonpartisan efforts here. The Citizens Climate Lobby, as we saw with the business group meeting the other night, very much prides itself on being bipartisan and even engaging Republicans and Democrats. And they have advocated to participate in the Environmental Voter Project. Their effort is to call people who have climate as a high priority item. Doesn't really matter what party they belong to, but just this has been identified as a top priority for them. And what their goal is in the Environmental Voter Project is to get them to vote and change their habit around voting. So again, it's nonpartisan. When they contact people and call people, they don't try to sway them one way or another. They're really just trying to get them out to vote, because they assume that when they vote, they'll vote for climate advocates. The League of Conservation Voters, I'm a member of that actually also, and they have a set of endorsements. We have a California chapter, and they have endorsed climate champions. And so you can see their website, and you can easily see their endorsements both in California and nationally. They have a goal, by the way, in the California legislature to elect a better set of climate champions than we already have. They have a targeted percentage ratio that they want to see happen. I saw a presentation about that. And so, I mean, they're a good resource if you want to look and you want to talk, get some background about the voting record of different people. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan group, and they really, they of course have, like, sometimes they have election forums with candidate forums. They register voters in even high schools. In my local community here in the South Bay, they go out to the high schools, and young people can register to vote as young as 16. And even though they can't vote right away, but they're trying to get them involved in the elections. And Sierra Club Independent Action, I've been involved with their work. It's a section because they have different, Sierra Club has its 401c3, and then they have another section where they can do independent action. They have a set of endorsements. They also have a campaign to call people in certain targeted areas, and their strategy is to get people in down ballot races, like in such states as Michigan, Minnesota, Arizona, because they understand that there are some strategically important elections for climate. And Vote Forward is another group that they write to candidates to get out the vote. So these are some examples of ways to get involved. And here's a picture of a group I got together, including Lucy Garcia, by the way, I just want to say, and my nephew standing on the chair to take the picture. But we were writing postcards the other night this was with Activate America. But these are things you can do. You can write postcards up until probably about October 25th, which is about early next week. You can write letters. There's a campaign to write letters and send off those letters probably by, I think they're having a big send off on October 29th. Of course, texting, there's a lot of groups that do texting. Canvassing is considered to be the #1 way of influencing voters. I have done that. I think I've done all of these things except texting. So that was good to hear about William's presentation. So we can make phone calls, canvass, text, letters, postcards. Someone said, what is the best method? The best method is what you are willing to do. So you can, of course, make donations. You can donate to PACs, or you can donate to directly to candidates that you particularly want to support. So I have some resources. I'll put them in the chat. I have some midterm election resources and talking points for climate activists. I have a California climate legislative update. I have a self-care tool for climate activists. I've been asked also, because I don't know if any of you know, I'm a mental health professional, and I've been studying climate anxiety. And so I recognize that a lot of us as climate activists, it's very stressful and there are a lot of ups and downs. And so I'm kind of been focusing on researching how to support not only climate activists, but people in general, young people who are having a lot of, maybe have climate anxiety. Anyway, so I have a self-care toolkit for that. And then I can give a link for the Sierra Club Independent Action if people are interested. I wanted to share with you that my daughter works at the Hollywood Farmers Market with an organization called CLA. It's called Sustainable Economic Enterprises of Los Angeles. She asked me if I would help, we could have an event in conjunction with their pumpkin painting. So I put together this effort to get out the vote at the farmers market. This is, I guess we don't have the date here, October 30th from 9 to 12. And so if anyone is interested in joining me, or if you know other people that would like to volunteer, Climate Realities co-sponsoring it. I've also reached out to the Sierra Club and the Citizens Climate Lobby. I'm still in the process of connecting with them and confirming if they want to be involved. And then actually my daughter asked me if we could also help with a Crenshaw Farmers Market on Saturday, the 29th. So here I am recruiting volunteers. So anyway, yeah, I guess the whole point is vote yourself and get as many people out to vote. I think the deadline to register to vote is 15 days before. I think you can actually vote right on the date. You can register vote right on the date of the election as well.
In
But,
California, yes, in person. There are limitations. Sorry, I just want to make sure we're clear to everyone, members and not. You can register for mail voting up to October 24th, but beyond that, you can register same day, but at that point, you need to vote in person.
Right. So thank you for Andy for clarifying that. Yeah, so I just want to thank you. This is a picture of my daughter at the farmer's market, one of the farmer's markets she worked at in the middle there. And if you want to contact me, and I'll put some of these resources in the chat. It'll just take me a moment to do that. But any questions and if you want to know any partisan efforts, I am happy to share that, but I didn't want to promote that right here at the moment.
Jeannie, I have a question, and thank you for all this. It's really great, and appreciate your enthusiasm and all the information. My question is about Prop 30, which is, being touted as a Clean Air Act. It seems like a lot of the environmental groups are supporting it, but I can't help but wonder about, the Lyft company giving 35 million for it. So I just wonder if you know anything about it. Oh, and Andrew's going to discuss that. Oh, that's good. Okay, so I must have been channeling Andrew there. So all right, well, I'll save my
carefully choreographed last
perfect,
Friday.
perfect segue, Tara. It's a perfect segue.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, because what we're trying to figure out is on some of these measures, you got to follow who's funding it, who's endorsing it, and then try to make the right decision.
Okay, so let's talk about Proposition 3. Andy and Tara has asked me. My name is Andrew Ellis, and I'm on the Legislative Committee. I was in the chair position previously to Andy and Tara. And Andy was in the legislative chair, so we're swapping places here. The Proposition 30 is tricky, and Tara, you're all right. It has some, I want to say, different meanings for different people, and I'll go over that. And then what we want to do is talk real briefly about the city of Los Angeles races that are coming up. If I could, I think I can share my screen with y'all here.
You should be able to share, Andrew. Yeah, perfect.
Can you see all that?
You're not on presenter mode yet, though. Right now, we can still see everything on the side there.
Yeah, I'm going to try to get here. All right, so let's do that. Let's go. Can you get it now?
You're good.
So what we want to talk about is the proposition. Normally in California, when we have referendums, there's a lot of referendums to decide. And in this particular case, this is the fewest number of referendums on the ballot since 1916. So it's an unusual year. The one that we want to focus on and concern ourselves with, there are other referendum, and I'll mention a few of them. The proposition number 1 is protecting a woman's right to choose. And then the proposition 26 and 27 deal with the gambling online issues, and we won't touch those tonight. What we do want to do is focus on this proposition 30. They're calling this it's essentially ostensibly a clean air referendum or an environmental referendum. The main question that the referendum asks is, should taxes be raised on the wealthiest Californians in order to fund new climate initiatives, including subsidies for electric vehicles? There are some controversial proponents and opponents for this measure, and I'll just go as a what we want to do on the legislative committee is present the both sides of the argument and let the citizenry make up their minds. let's talk about what is the provision of the Proposition 30. What are they actually going to do? It's going to increase the tax on people making more than $2 million by a 1.75%. The revenue goes to funding electrical vehicles, charging stations, infrastructures, and wildfire prevention, ostensibly to prevent air pollution. The opponents for the measures here say that this bill is funded to the tune of $15 million by the rideshare hailing transportation company Lyft. And the opponents of this proposition are saying that this is a ploy by the rideshare company Lyft to have the taxpayers, and particularly the taxpayers making over $2 million, fund the Lyft's transition to an electric vehicle fleet. I will point out that the California Teachers Association is also opposed to this measure. So opponents are saying that this is a ploy by a rideshare organization, Lyft, to help the taxpayers, have the taxpayers help them fund their transition to electric vehicles. The proponents of Proposition 30 that are currently on the ballot for November say it would help California move to clean energy, hit climate goals such as banning gas-powered cars by 2035. And the hope is that we can really be on track to meet our climate goals. It invests $100 million over the next 20 years in making electric vehicles available to small businesses and charging stations for those electric vehicles as easy as possible. Let's mention where our governor, Gavin Newsom, lands on this question. Governor Newsom is fervently against Measure 30. In a statement, he said, Prop 30 is a special interest carve-out. It's a cynical scheme devised by a single corporation to funnel state income tax revenue to their company. So that's how Gavin feels about it. There are proponents of the proposition that talk about the impact on wildfire. Wildfire is devastating. Proposition 30 taxes only the wealthiest Californians, and it funds wildfire prevention and clean air programs. So there is an argument to be made that this does have an impact on air pollution. It will also, if the money is allocated and directed properly, will help consumers afford these zero emission vehicles and create a statewide charging network. They're saying strict accountability and audits are planned, penalties. There are organizations within the state firefighters, some environmental groups, and some energy and experts are in support of this proposition. Let me just say the proposition here is, let me back up here, I apologize. I'm trying to get to the right slide here. What they're talking about is raising taxes over the next 20 years by about $90 billion. Increasing the cost for California, it severely strains the struggling electric grid. It's already at risk of rolling blackouts. There are those who are saying to join the taxpayers organizations, teachers, small businesses to reject this unnecessary tax. So those are kind of the positions about the proposition that's on the board. We can talk about the fact that it was funded by Lyft and to transition their electrical vehicle fleet. I guess I'll close and open the floor for conversation. What I want to do is put in a plug for our legislative committee. We meet on the last Saturday, allegedly on the last Saturday of every month at 9 a.m. on Zoom. We want to try to identify constituents to go to meetings. These could be virtual meetings or knock on doors. This is to Brad Sherman and all the California Assembly members and California senators as well, and the federal representatives, to bring them position papers. How does the Los Angeles chapter feel about certain issues? We want to also provide legislative advocacy, and I'll just mention a few things that Andy Tara and the group with Senator Fernando has been involved with. We had an Inflation Reduction Act. Manchin and Senator Schumer got together on Sunday, figured it out on Monday. We got it approved by the Legislative Committee by Wednesday. Andy wrote the bulk of the advocacy paper, and we faxed everything off by Friday afternoon to all the senators, our 2 senators from California and all of our representatives in the Southland, about 15 of those. So we wanted to continue this legislative advocacy. That requires some legwork. When we go into meetings, we don't want to go in blind. We want to know where these legislators have been previously, what their positions are on certain issues before we go in and ask them to do things. And we also want to do a follow-up with them 3 months, 6 months down the road. I will put in a big plug for our combined effort at the San Fernando Valley Legislative Committee with Kathy Schaefer and Cheryl Cunha. They were just really super at winnowing down a large list of bills. And Andy and the team, all of us know how impactful we were at getting all that legislation to the governor's desk for signatures at the end of September. So a big kudos to the big team at San Fernando Valley and the LA chapter. Please join us. We're a small group, Jeannie, Dorit, Andrew, Pamela, but we have fun and we'd like to do some more legislative meetings. I think I'll close it there and open the floor for questions.
Does anyone have any questions for Andrew?
So you're not going to say to vote yes or no, are you? Hi, Andrew. You're leaving it up to us.
I can take my position. I'm not shy.
Yeah,
I
you
will-
can because it's not
I
a
will-
candidate.
I think getting contributions from citizens that have plenty to spare is one strategy to have an impact on wildfire. If this thing didn't have a wildfire component, I would be voting no. And I think for me, having our wealthy citizens contribute to the air pollution, which is so devastating to young children, this is a dear, I have chronic obstructive pulmonary disease myself. So asthma and wildfire air pollution is going to be a serious problem. And if we can get some money devoted to that, I'm willing to transition Lyft's fleet to electric vehicles. So sorry.
Yeah, I hear you. I think I've really felt conflicted on it, but I'm also leaning towards yes. I mean, the one thing that I think everybody knows is that Lyft doesn't have a fleet, right? It's everyone's individual cars. So I feel like it's this sort of weird misnomer about, oh, Lyft is going to get something when really they're just going to have to make sure all their drivers have EVs. Isn't that how that's going to work?
Correct. So we're not actually asking taxpayers to buy electric vehicles for Lyft. The money will be extracted from those who make over $2 million and distributed to consumers to transition to electric vehicles. Some of those consumers will be Lyft drivers. So that's what Tara is talking about. We're not buying Lyft a new fleet of vehicles. What we're doing is we're subsidizing the cost of purchasing an electric vehicle and phasing out a gasoline internal combustion engine, which does have air pollution impact. That will have an air pollution impact. 40% of our emissions are related to transportation in Southern California. So this could be a game changer. I understand about the special carve-outs and why Gavin Newsom does not want to go back to the referendum process to have special carve-outs for individual corporations who are doing business in the state. I totally agree with Gavin, but the air pollution improvement to protect the children of California is too important in my books to pass on this opportunity. And I think for those who are making $2 million can pay an extra 1.5%.
Can I jump in here?
Cheryl?
Hi. So Andy or Andrew, are either of you getting those emails from CAC? I think it is the Climate Action California that and somehow I get these really, really technical ones from 350 Silicon Valley and stuff. And
I have not been getting those, Sherilyn. I'm not an expert in this either, so
I
my
am
feeling
not.
is more from the heart. It's from the
right, I am not, and I have to say that I get confused by a lot of them. I'll try and list some of the simpler points that I got from, they're having this conversation. One is that Newsom is going to be against it because he has a lot of wealthy donors, and he can't kind of say to the wealthy donors. So that's pretty simplistic or whatever. Somebody posted a whole thing about how it had actually started from somewhere else, and then Lyft just joined. Lyft didn't start the whole thing, but they joined into it. And I could probably try and find that, but geez, they send out so many emails that I don't know, it'd take me a while to go through that. Andy, do you remember seeing that at all?
No, but I will say, to your point, I did not hear about Lyft's involvement until far past it being on the ballot. So that's why it has become interesting, and I can see why it's a lightning rod issue. But I also understand and support what Andrew is saying, which is, at the end of the day, doesn't matter who supported it, it matters what it actually does.
Right. That's about where I am now, is like, we need this to happen as quick as possible, and this will be helping in that effort. I'm just trying to remember some of the more specific things. Lyft apparently has given a lot of money into the,
$15 million.
million.
Yeah.
I heard it was 15, but they may have changed. It might have gone. It might have gone.
It's
I'll
on
put-
Ballotpedia as 35.
Yeah.
I'll put some links in the chat from the information that I read on this subject and the information that I provided to you on the Proposition 30, just so you can have an idea of the links that I used.
Thank you, Andrew. That'll be helpful for the group.
One was ABC News, Proposition 30, Electrical Vehicle Fund. The other is LAist.com, LAIST, LAist. And then I put my contact information there if anybody wants to join the committee. You can call Jeannie or me, but we'd love to have you on the legislative team.
We would love you to join Andrew, Jeannie, and I will try and make whatever meetings I can. I strongly support the work of the Legislative and Citizen Activist Committee. I did want to add, unless anyone has any other questions, I wanted to talk really briefly because there's an elephant in the room. So any other questions?
Dave has his hand up.
Okay, go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, quick
Dave,
question,
Dave.
Andrew. Where did the Sierra Club weigh in on this, or has the Sierra Club weighed in?
Jeannie is my Sierra Club connection here. Jeannie.
Well, I was just noticing here, I have this SoCal Now, which is the Los Angeles chapter, and they have endorsements for certain ballot initiatives, and I don't see that they've endorsed 30.
I'll look for it.
They did
David, I'll look for it.
on their website,
They did on
their
their
voter
website.
guide, the Sierra Club did endorse 30.
Oh, on the national or state or
The state.
the state. Okay, yeah, this is the Los Angeles chapter.
There you go, David.
Okay, so a follow-up here. Sierra Club on their website has endorsed 30, is what I just heard from Dave G. And,
Yes.
the CAC, which is the old Silicon Valley 350 group, morphed. I agree with Cheryl. It's hard to follow without allocating 45 minutes to 2 hours a day. It's nice to see what they're talking about, but it's still up in the air with them. Is that what I'm hearing?
It seems to be that more of them are leaning towards it, but I don't know that they have actually made an official statement. I've just been watching the conversations back and forth. And what I seem to get from the people who are supporting it is that, we need to go all in on this, that we need electrification. We need this stuff to happen as soon as possible, and that this will help with that.
And then just one more comment, Andrew. I myself have good lungs, but many of my family members have suffered from lung disease. And I think that sometimes we divorce the greenhouse gases from the, the worst air in the country and the chronic lung disease in the South Coast Air Quality Management District. And it seems like it's the same issue. It's crap coming out of cars and trucks mostly. So, I would tend to favor this proposition just for that very simple reason. That's it.
I just want to share, I don't know if I just looked up on the Sierra Club website and they have not taken a position on Prop 30. That's the state, California.
Yeah, I was gonna say, unfortunately, that's what I see as well. I see election endorsements, no position, and also it states tax to support questionable firefighting methods.
I'm a member of the East Area Progressive Democrats. Let me see what Hans Johnson and his group says. I'll have to pull it up here just a second.
Okay. It's good that we're having a debate. That's what democracy is all about, figuring out what the bills actually do. So that is the point of this call. So I'm happy to see it taking place. Andrew, let me know when you find that, because there was one other thing I wanted to bring up.
I checked.
Hans Johnson at East Area Progressive Democrats is a supporter of Proposition 30.
Okay, any other questions? Anything else that the group would like to discuss?
Thank you for the opportunity to have me sort of present the two. Tara, I'm glad you brought it out with the lift conversation. This one's a kind of a tricky one. Normally, these are pretty cut and dried, but we still have a little time on this, by the way, too. So we don't have to, when do we start voting? In a couple of weeks?
So
start now.
Yeah, that's
I've
a good
already
question.
voted.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now,
Early ballots
I
already
guess
out.
you can
mail-in
vote by
ballots
mail.
already out.
I've got my ballot. I could vote now, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's time to figure this out.
And the only other thing I guess I would add is, on the candidate front, obviously, we can't really tell you guys, who we support or anything like that, but I would just say pay attention to your local city council elections. If there are races in your council districts, there's some county positions that are important. There's obviously LA City Mayor. So,
Can I run over? Can I share my screen? And I've got this pulled up and I can show you real quick if I have 2 seconds.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let me,
Andrew.
Sure.
let me see if I can pull this up. And
Oh, there's 3 seats in Burbank. There's also, I think, 3 seats in Culver City. So, it's like super important. I know this group is probably all voting and active and all that, but hopefully for people watching afterwards, the main thing is you got to vote.
so
believe
this is
two seats
this
in
is
Culver
a
City.
group. I'm sorry. This is a group called the LAist, and it has what does the city council do? And then I'll see if I can make this bigger for you. It has these races here of who's available. So this is at laist.com. And what seats are up for election right now? There's District 5, 11, District 13, and 15. So in these districts, you can look at the district and where it is. It has a description. For District 5, it's Greater Mid-Welsor, Mid-City, Pico, South Robertson. There's Sam Yebe running, and then there's Katie Yaroslavsky, who's an environmental lawyer. Again, we're not going to say one way or another which one to vote for, but this is a good way to find out. I'll put this link I put into the chat that has, you can just look up these races. Who's got the money? Katie's got $1 million. He's got 1.7. District 11 is a race between Mr. Darling, what he's known for, the housing, climate, and the environment, versus Tracy Park, who's a municipal law attorney, and she's running on the platform of homelessness, housing, law enforcement. So money again for Darling and Tracy, and it looks like there's a significant gap between the amount of money these people are raising. These are not party races, by the way, Tara. Am I correct?
That's correct, but it's also good to point out that just because someone earned more money doesn't mean they're a better candidate. So it's stating
Correct.
the
I don't mean
obvious,
to
I
say,
guess.
please understand, this is for your information only. District,
Totally, but yeah.
the Echo Park, Elysian Park, Glassell Park, and there's Mitch O'Farrell. He's fairly well known.
The incumbent, yep.
And then Mr. Soto Martinez. So anyway, that's the District 15 again is another race. It's the Port of Los Angeles, Wilmington, Harbor City, an important district for us. Candidates Tim McCosker, running on housing, public safety, economy, climate change, versus Danielle Sandoval, what she's running for, the environment, housing, public safety. So I encourage everybody to look. I'll stop the share here, just say that that's I think the link is in the chat. Let me make sure. Yeah, it's that second blue link that I just put in there right above my name, laist.com. And anyway, thanks, Tara and Andy. I appreciate it.
Really quickly, Andrew, with regards to District 5, I just want everyone to know we actually hosted a debate between the candidates and again, the original 4 candidates about environmental issues. That is available on our YouTube channel if you want to see where the candidates stack up. But also it's important to be active so that we raise the profile of climate on candidates as well as elected officials, just repertoire and what they're actually speaking to and building policy around. And then Jeannie, it looks like you have your hand up. So I want to make sure you get to bring up any last minute points.
Well, I guess one thing I just wanted to thank you for co-sponsoring this event to get out the vote at the farmers market. I kind of like the idea of having like a forum where people show up anyway, and then you can engage them around climate discussions. So I really appreciate that, and hope maybe some people might also volunteer. The other thing is unrelated to elections. I just wanted to say that there's a video that Al Gore created, kind of complementing the climate literacy committee's work or do Climate Reality Project. So I don't know, at some point maybe we'll show that somewhere.
Yes, thank you, Jeannie. That's a great point. So Al Gore personally congratulated the Climate Literacy Committee, the LA chapter, and all those involved, because it wasn't just us, in putting forward and ensuring passage of the climate literacy resolution. But to that point, we still need to make sure that we're advocating for full funding of that measure and helping with implementation. So if you have any ideas, anything that we can do to help around that, just volunteer. All that information is available on the website. The other thing that I want to speak to really quickly before we end this meeting is something that Andrew brought up. So I want to acknowledge something, and it's that the future of LA politics remains uncertain. There's a lot of stuff in the news, but we will not speculate on that, but we will instead look to the future. We're always expecting and demanding that elected officials and leadership demonstrate equal respect for people and the planet while governing. So leadership may change. And again, you as citizens, you as voters can change that by encouraging others to vote, by being voting or voter advocates. You can affect that. But regardless, we want to make sure that when leadership changes, that our resolves and our objectives do not. The LA chapter will continue to and constantly advocate local, state, and national policies and legislation that move LA, the state, and the nation in a more sustainable and climate-forward direction. Furthermore, those policies, that legislation, and any actions taken must be grounded in and aimed towards the establishment of environmental and climate justice, which continues to evade us. But again, we're not going to let it end. We're going to keep that fight up. So again, I just want to conclude by saying that. And then if there's any other announcements, anything that wants to be discussed, this has been a productive meeting for dialogue and discussion. So I see Andrew's hand is up. So let's finish off the meeting with any last minute announcements, whether they're from leadership or from members themselves. And this recording will be posted.
The Los Angeles Climate Business Committee, Ashley, Craig, Julie Schultz, Steph Miller, and me, and a bunch of other people are having a lunch and learn for restaurants on sustainable and taking your building green. It's a panel webinar. It's available on November 3rd at 3 p.m. If anybody wants to participate in it, we'll have the marketing materials. They're being prepared now and they're available. November 3rd, it's a Thursday afternoon. And if you know restaurants that are thinking about ways to be sustainable about their plastics and packaging, we'll have a panel of 4 people discussing this, experts from the Surfrider Foundation, the Los Angeles business community. So please pass the word and join us on November 3rd at 3 p.m. If it's called the Climate Business Lunch and Learn series. We'll try to do these webinars on a monthly basis with each different industry as we go through. The first one's restaurants on November 3rd. Andy and Tara, thanks so much. You guys know about it, but I want to just mention it to everybody else. David, good to see everybody. Wonderful to see everybody. Dave, and good to
Thank you, Andrew, for announcing that. It's an important event. Jeannie, you had something else?
Oh, I have, well, I wish I had the details, but on November 10th, George Letty, he's been a member of the Climate Literacy Committee, has invited people to present on climate anxiety and climate and mental health. And actually I'm going to be presenting along with him and some many other people. So I just wanted to mention that, and maybe there's a way to publicize that at some point when I have.
Yeah,
the
if you
link.
give me details, we'll put it on the calendar. And if you have a flyer or anything that can go on social media, let me know. What's the name of the event?
It's on climate and mental health, and it's put on by the SEI, of the Los Angeles Community College District.
Okay.
George Letty heads up this Sustainable Environmental Institute of the district. And they put on periodic forums, and they're very good. By the way, I went to one on Earth Day that was excellent. But anyway,
Good.
so yeah, that's coming up, and I'll pass that information to you.
Yep. Thank you for your announcement. Thank you for all that you're doing. Any other announcements before we head out for the day? I know people are busy and there's a lot more climate action to go forward and take place, but if anyone has anything else they want to bring up, speak now. All right, Tara, any closing remarks?
No, just want to thank everyone for joining. It was great to see some of you last week at our happy hour. We'll probably be doing another in-person event before the end of the year, so we hope to see some more of you there.
Thank you, everyone. The holidays are
It's great
coming,
to
but
see
climate
everyone.
action doesn't stop. And elections are coming, so get involved, stay active, and encourage people to vote, as well as vote yourself. All right, thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
Wonderful to see
Good night.
everyone.
Good to see you all.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Carrie.